You still love them, you're still attracted, you want things to work, but when it comes to sex, your body just doesn't show up. You try to get in the mood, you try to get hard, but nothing's happening. Or maybe it starts, but it doesn't last. And now you're wondering, what's wrong with me? If that sounds familiar, especially in long-term relationship, you're not alone. In fact, I would argue this is one of the most common but least talked about experiences in sex and relationship. And here's the truth: erection doesn't just fail because of age, hormone, or blood flow. They fail because intimacy shifts. And what turns us on changes over time. Let's talk about why that happens and what you can actually do about it. I'm a clinical sexologist and academic doctor with over 2 decades of experience helping people navigate sexual challenges, especially the invisible ones. And this one is one of the trickiest because it's not just about getting hard, it's about feeling alive and connected in a relationship that's become more familiar than exciting. So let's unpack what's really going on, starting with the myth that love equals lust. Truth number one: familiarity kills the erotic tension that fuels desire. Let's start with the big one. Desire thrives on distance, eroticism feeds on novelty. And guess what long term relationships are built on? Closeness, comfort, predictability. It's not your fault, it's not their fault. It's this structure. You go from mystery to routine, from what will happen to we know exactly how this goes. And while that's great for safety and attachment, it's a buzzkill for arousal. Here's the analogy I use with my client: desire is like fire, love is like a warm blanket. You need both, but wrap the fire too tightly, and you know what happened. In the beginning of a relationship, there's anticipation, curiosity, and separation. You dress up, you prepare, you think about them, they think about you. That space, that longing create energy. Fast forward a few years, you're brushing your teeth side by side. You have seen each other sick and grumpy, scrolling Instagram in the bed for 2 hours straight. That erotic charge, the one that fuels spontaneous erections, gets replaced by domesticity. Now, this doesn't mean you stop loving each other. It means your erotic brain is missing the stimulus it used to have. In fact, studies from the Journal of Sex Research show that couples in long-term relationship often report a significant drop in desire, not because of emotional disconnection, but because of predictability. So if your body isn't turning on like it used to, it might not be broken, it might just be bored. And that's something you can fix, but not with pressure or performance. You fix it with reignition. And this brings us to the second layer, the silent expectation that start building up over time. The one you don't talk about, but still shape the sex. Truth number two: sex becomes about obligation, not inspiration. So here's what happens next. Once the routine sets in, once the passion fades into familiarity, something subtle starts to creeping in. Sex stops being about want and start being about duty. You think, we haven't had sex for a while, I probably should. She'll feel rejected if I don't. He's been dropping hints, I guess I should try to get in the mood. And here's the thing: your body knows when it's not true desire. It knows when you are showing up out of pressure, guilt, or trying to avoid argument. I had a client, mid 30, been with his partner for about a decade. He said, I love her. I want her. But sometimes sex feels like something I have to clock in for. That's right there. That's the death of a spontaneous erection. Because erection aren't transactional. They're responsive. They rely on freedom, authenticity, play. When you feel boxed in, like sex is something you owe rather than something you choose, your nervous system shuts down. And here's the psychological layer. You start associating sex with pressure, not pleasure. You enter the moment already anticipating failure or discomfort. And when that happens, you don't turn on, you retreat. Even if you physically hear, your mind has already left. If this is sounding uncomfortably familiar, if you ever had that moment where you're there, but your body just say no, this channel is for you. Hit that subscribe button because every week I break down the real behind the scenes reason erections fail, especially in relationship that still matter, and how to rebuild that connection from the inside out. And truth number three, emotional safety is high, but erotic risk is zero. Here's the final piece. Long-term relationships are amazing for emotional security, but they are not always great at maintaining sexual risk. What does that mean? In the beginning, there is vulnerability. You're trying to impress, to reveal, to experiment. There's risk. That's sexy. That's alive. But fast forward 5, 10 years later, you know exactly how the script goes. You stick to what works, or worse, what doesn't not work. Sex becomes safe, predictable, quiet. And eroticism, it doesn't live in safety. It lives in play, in edge, in boldness. That little spark, this is exciting. I don't know what's going to happen next. Without that, even the deepest love can stop feeling erotic. Here's the bonus tip. Number 4, you need to rebuild erotic polarity. All right, now let's talk about what you can actually do. Because this isn't just about noticing the problem, it's about building something new inside the relationship you already care about. Here's your next step: reintroduce polarity. Not conflict, not tension, polarity. That means magnetic differences between two energies, usually masculine, feminine, giver, receiver, pursuer, seducer. That creates erotic charge. In long-term relationship, that charge often collapse. You become partners, co-parents, teammates. Great for day-to-day life, terrible for turn on. So how do you bring it back? You do something unexpected. You show up in a moment, not as predictable partner, but as someone mysterious, teasing, unapologetically present. And no, I'm not talking about buying lingerie or learning some advanced Kama Sutra pose. I'm talking about changing the energy. Try this. Instead of asking, do you want to have sex? Say, don't move. I want to feel you for a second. Instead of usual peck and scrolling to bed, walk up, hold their face, and whisper, you have no idea of what you do to me. That moment, it's not about the words, it's about the intention behind them. You're flipping the energy from safe to spontaneous, from roommate to lover. This doesn't guarantee an erection on the spot, but it sends a new message to your nervous system. Ooh, we are playing again. This is different. And that signal over time can start reawakening the very part of you that went quiet. Now, if this is hitting, if you're realizing I still get morning wood, but when it's with my partner, it's like my body shuts off, you have to watch my other video on that exact issue: strong erection alone, but not during sex. Here's why. Because what we just talked about here, polarity, routine, pressure, all of that show up there. And when you learn to reconnect what turns you on internally to what's happening with your partner, that's when the game changes. Look, long-term love is beautiful, but it doesn't come with built-in eroticism. That part you have to tend to. You have to choose it. You have to feed it. Your erection isn't broken. It's just reacting to the context that feels too familiar, too flat, too safe. And that can be changed. If you're ready to train your way back into that spark day to day, moment by moment, I created a 30-day daily intimacy system that is simple, powerful, and it gives you the little nudges that relationship needs but never ask for. And if you want to go deeper into everything that impacts your erection, from brain to body to connection, get to my free 3-day masterclass, The Hard Truth. That's your starting point. Now, if your erection are still showing up when you're alone, but not when you're with your partner, click right here for the next video. Let me explain what that happens and how to fix it.